So I would like to address this question that is often asked by people that are new to importing and exporting. If you are new to exporting items or importing items, I know there's this question that will always come to your mind and which will require you to always find an answer to. So one question that new people into exporting and importing business often ask and need to find answer to is what method of shipping should I use to ship my product? Okay, assuming you are in Nigeria, you are planning to export food items. Now comes the question, which method should you use to ship to move your cargoes overseas, maybe to Canada, to US or UK? Is it by air or by sea? Okay, so if you are watching this video and you have that question, I want you to sit back and relax because I'm going to explain and give you three factors to consider when you are exporting your product with regards to the method. Is it by sea or by air? Okay, the first factor you need to consider is how urgent is the cargo you want to send overseas. Okay, if the items or the cargo you want to ship to another country is very urgent as in very urgent, time is of essence. Okay, in that case you are considering time more important than any other thing, then you should be looking at shipping it by air. Okay, so if your product or your cargo is very time sensitive, you cannot in fact there is a deadline that you need to meet, and if you don't meet that timeline, it's going to cause a very detrimental effect or cause uh, an issue that is not going to be fun at all. So you need to look at maybe shipping or exporting that item or moving those stuff by air. Okay, so you are considering time. If time is of essence, if it is an agreement, it's an agreed time that you need to meet the timeline, and if the timeline you're almost running late and you need to meet the deadline, so you have to ship it by air. I remember in my former company, a pharmaceutical company, uh we we needed to purchase a filling machine, an infusion filling machine. Okay, normally we ought to have shipped it by ocean because it is quite heavy. Okay, but we had to fly the filling machine because we had to meet a regulatory timeline. Okay, so if you're in pharmaceutical company, there are sometimes you may need to ship an item by air because you want to quickly meet a regulatory timeline. Okay, whereas at other time it will be cheaper to ship it by sea. So we had to ship the filling machine for one of our products because we had to fly it rather because we needed to meet the regulatory line. The regulatory body were coming to inspect our facility, and we needed to have that equipment right on time before they came. So we had short time to quickly procure the equipment, bring it to Nigeria, do qualifications, validations on it, and then set it up. So in that case, we had to fly because although it cost us more, we spend more money bringing that item by air, but it was justified. So the first thing you consider is the time, how urgent it is. Secondly, you need to consider the nature of the product you want to export or import. If the nature of the product or of the product cannot afford you to afford it to spend too much time in transit, then you may need to ship it by air, which is faster. However, if you are shipping a product that is not affected in transit by time, does not affect it in transit, and is something that you can ship by ocean or by sea, so that means you have to choose. It's cheaper, it's better to choose the sea option. There are some foodstuffs that once they are in dry condition, they can spend 6 months and 1 year in that condition without deteriorating. Well, you can ship those items by sea. In fact, it saves you money, and then although it's longer, but it's cheaper. The landing cost will be cheaper. So if an item you are shipping is not affected by time, or in transit, then you can ship it by sea rather. So that means time is not of essence. So if you are looking at 2 months, 3 months on the sea, and you look into your budget, you look into your schedule, if it's still okay, you might decide to ship it by sea. Okay, so that means that time is not of essence. You have already planned your supply chain to accommodate the 2 or 3 months the cargo is going to spend on sea, and between those periods, the quality, the integrity of the product is not going to be affected. So I've talked about how urgent it is you want to export or import the item. If it's very urgent and time is of essence, you have to choose to send it by air. So secondly, I talked about the nature of the product. If the nature of the product is sensitive, is sensitive to transit, okay. If it cannot survive long transit time, so you have to choose to send it by air. But if you can withstand a long transit time on the ocean, well, good, you can ship it by ocean. Okay, so the third thing that you may need to look at is your final landing cost. So as a business owner looking to export, you need to ensure that your product have a competitive landing cost at the port of destination. Okay, so it needs to, for example, if you're into groundnut packaging in Nigeria, and you're looking to export your groundnut to Canada, for example, you will be very competitive with manufacturers of groundnut in Canada or in US when your landing cost is competitive, okay, with their own price. So by the time you add the shipping cost and custom clearing cost to your final product, and it is still very much competitive with the product from Canada, okay, that means you are going to have a good market. Your customers in Canada would be more obliged to buy from you, okay, be more obliged to import your product from Nigeria because your product is competitive. Okay, all things be equal, the quality and everything are the same. So the landing cost is important. So if you are looking at your landing cost, your landing cost will determine which route your landing cost can determine which route you want to use, whether by air or by sea. Assuming it is not time sensitive, assuming the nature of the product can allow it to be shipped whether by air or by ocean. So now you are now looking at your final landing cost. So to ship our product is usually by ocean, but by sea is usually cheaper, okay, than shipping by air. So if it's a product that is not time sensitive and is not easily damaged on transit, you may want to ship it by the sea because it is cheaper. The final landing